There are only two fruits that I haven't eaten and mastered yet, which are the Control fruit and the Kitsune fruit. And the only one missing in my inventory is the Kitsune fruit, which I haven't been lucky enough to get. So the only way I found was to trade for it. As a form of currency for trading, I'm going to buy a gimmick pass. I just don't know if I can store this gimmick pass in my inventory. And I'm going to buy space in the chest so I don't end up dropping stuff. I'm going to send it to my inventory first. 400 Robux, which is quite a lot. And now it's just a matter of making the trade and offering our game pass. But the value difference is still too high, so I'm going to have to add something to balance it out. The best option I found here was a Control. So this is going to be our whole trade. And I don't know if it's really worth it, but the Kitsune is very rare and I need it. And we got our first Kitsune. This is the first time I have it in my inventory. Now I just need to make a trade to get the Kitsune onto my account. But unfortunately, I don't have any fruit to offer to get the Kitsune. So I'm going to spin here to test my luck and hope to get a mythical fruit. Unfortunately, I got a common fruit. I went to spin for fruit on other accounts and ended up getting the Buddha fruit. But I don't know if it's enough for us to trade for a Kitsune. Unfortunately, the value difference is huge, so we won't be able to get the Kitsune right now. The first trade before getting the Kitsune fruit, I'm going to get the poison fruit, but I don't know if the poison fruit is enough for us to get the Kitsune. I'm still going to need another fruit so I can actually make the trade. The trade I'm doing right now is a bit confusing, but I believe it's going to work out. I got these two fruits, now I'm going to make the trade again. But this time I'm going to offer more fruits so we can actually get the Kitsune fruit. After a long time, it was a lot of work, but we finally got our first Kitsune. And the physical fruit is really beautiful. But before we eat and master it, I'm going to do this first with the Control fruit, which is going to take a lot of work. We're about to eat our fruit because the physical fruit is really beautiful. And to be able to use the abilities, we need to create a bubble. And inside this bubble, we can attack. If I try to use any attack outside of it, can't even use it. But now in here, we can already attack the enemy and we have a rock on top of him. It's a really cool attack. To hit the enemy, you have to aim at them, since you lift the rock off the ground to attack the enemy. And the best part of this attack is that it comes back really fast. I already used a skill, and in less than 3 seconds, the skill was back. So to defeat an enemy, it ends up being pretty quick. And the bubble is an infinite. So after a while, it's going to disappear. And the longer you hold the bubble, the bigger it will get. If you just click, it will stay this size. But now if we hold the ability, it gets huge. And I just realized that the first skill we need to unlock is a 150 mastery. That's a lot. By defeating this enemy, we're going to unlock the first skill, which took a lot of work, but as soon as we use it inside the bubble, if we leave the bubble, we can't use the skill. We make a slash that attacks the enemy really fast, dealing over 5,000 damage. Even though it's a really good attack, fortunately it doesn't hit in an area. We can only hit one enemy at a time. Then we have to wait for the skill to come back so we can attack the next one. I just unlocked the second to last skill and I'm a bit disappointed, because the second to last skill isn't a damage dealing skill. We teleport. It's a good skill, especially depending on where you are. But our teleportation doesn't deal any damage. And we can only teleport to a location that's inside this bubble, because if we're outside, can't do it. And the only limit to this teleportation is that it has to be a physical location for you to actually get there. We just need one more NPC to unlock all the skills of our fruit. It's going to be this one here, which I'm going to defeat to unlock our last ability. And this ability here, it's really beautiful. For this reason, I'm going to use it in the center of the island. The last island was really big, which is why I ended up switching so we could see our ability better. Because when we end up using it, we keep looking around while we're attacking back and forth. And we deal 35,000 damage, which is a lot. It's 5,000 damage, I want a lot of it. I want a lot of damage. But it wasn't just the boss that we attacked. Any enemy that was inside the bubble, we also end up hitting. That's why it's such a strong ability. This time, I'm going to use it down here. And I'm going to use the same ability. It's going to hit most of the enemies. I ended up forgetting to aim at the enemy, but this time I'm going to aim at him. And we're going to deal a lot of damage, because any enemy that's around going to end up hitting, and we dealt almost 60,000 damage. Of course, it wasn't just one enemy. We managed to hit them all at the same time. This is a really strong ability. I had already forgotten to show the best ability of our fruit. When we activate the bubble and aim at an object or a building, we can pull it out and throw it anywhere. And this isn't just with buildings. If I buy a boat and use the same ability, we can also grab it and throw it. That's a really cool ability. And something even more interesting that we can do, if we use the ability and manage to throw it outside the bubble, it will just fly away. Now it's time for the most awaited fruit of all, our beloved Kitsune, strongest fruit, which is the most expensive in Blox fruits. It's almost a shame to eat this fruit, but there's no other option but to eat it so we can test its abilities. And the best part of our fruit is that we start with one tail, and over time, that tail increases until we have 3. The more tails we have, the faster I'm going to be. We already have the first ability where we create this blue flame that we can throw at the enemy, and a second ability which is the click, and it's really strong. I think it's the strongest fruit ability. I'm going to do a combo here with just one click so you can see how strong this fruit is. It dealt almost 7,000 damage with just one click, and even after the combo, you can still keep clicking. You just have to wait a little longer. The first ability is the blue flame, and when we throw it at the enemy, we can deal 3,000 damage. And the best part of this ability is that it's an area attack, so we can hit several enemies at the same time. Now I realize that the first ability works differently. We throw the blue flame at the enemy, circles around them and then attacks. The second ability, when we use it, releases some kind of magic, spins around and deals over 3,000 damage. It's a good ability, but I don't know if it works in an area, so I'm going to use it on these two enemies. And when we hit, it does work in an area. The only downside to this attack is that we're dealing with the enemy from really far away. He practically flies away. The third ability is unlocked, and I have no idea how it works, but I'm going to test it on the enemies here. By holding the attack, we create this blue ball that we can throw at the enemy, and then it ends up exploding. It's a really strong attack. We managed to hit in an area. But now I'm going to test it on a separate enemy just so we can see how much damage this does. And it was almost 5,500. I unlocked our second to last ability, which is movement, and as we use it, we move, but not that far. It helps, but not as much compared to other movements. The good thing about this movement is that we can also use it to deal damage to the enemy. We can only hit one enemy at a time. We deal a lot of damage. Just with the movement, deal 3,300 damage. Actually, the final damage was 3,600. I decided to defeat the boss to unlock the last ability. And just to give you an idea of how strong this fruit is, can defeat the boss without being defeated even once. Just using one attack after another, we deal a lot of damage to the enemy. This fruit to end the panic. Think it might even be stronger than the Buddha fruit, but I'm not so sure about that. By defeating these enemies, we're going to unlock the last ability. And something interesting is that when we use the click, it gets a blue effect that deals damage over time. This ends up being very strong, especially for breaking the observation haki. But now our last ability is transformation, and it's the best transformation in my opinion. The transformation that has the most detail, and it's the most beautiful. Once you're transformed, there's no limit to it. It's infinite, and by itself, it's already very fast. But if you use this accessory, get way faster. Being one of the fastest fruits or the fastest fruit, I think it even beats the leopard. Using the hat and the abilities. The abilities, when we use them, the first ability, instead of throwing a fireball, grab the enemy, throw them away, and then throw a fireball. It's a really beautiful animation. Even though we grab the enemy and then throw them away, it's still an area ability. The only problem here is that I didn't hit both of them, but if they're closer together, we can hit them all at the same time. In the second ability, we grab the enemy, jump, and then slam them to the ground, dealing 4,000 damage. Even when transformed, we still have the click, but now, while transformed, we're also faster at dodging attacks. The third ability is movement, and even when transformed, we still don't go very far. But the good part is that we can attack the enemy and deal a lot of damage. And it still has that blue effect which deals damage over time. And the last ability, going to create a blue ball, throw it at the enemy, and it causes a huge explosion. Without being transformed, the ability is practically the same. What changes, though, is the range and the damage. The best part of the transformation, which I was almost forgetting, is that we can walk on water. But if we stop, we're going to sink. Even so, it's really good because since the fruit is fast, we can go from one island to another without using a boat. And if you're playing with a friend, they can sit here in this chair. I don't know if he can attack along with you. He can stay here while you go from one island to another. And currently, this is my fruit inventory. We've already eaten, awakened, and mastered all the fruits that are here in Blox fruits. It took a lot of work, but our journey was successfully completed. And now we just have to wait for new fruits to be released so we can eat and awaken them too. I hope you all enjoyed this journey of ours. Until the next video, and